Thank you for joining me here today in the Barn Theatre, and thanks as always to all the help that I'm getting, and to David, who's here comparing the show. As I discuss, today I'm discussing the reopening of shops ahead of next Monday, when all other shops in England can start to open their doors once more. These are important steps to getting Britain back to work after a significantly challenging period that has threatened the future of so many businesses and jobs. I will be discussing these issues surrounding the reopening of shops, department stores and shopping centres, including the proposed reduction of from 2 to 1 metre social distancing, and the steps that are being taken to keep workers and customers safe. A particularly important issue in rural areas such as the Cotswolds is parking. And to encourage people back to our high street, there needs to be an adequate parking at competitive prices. Joining me today to consider these issues are a panel of illustrious local industry experts, and thank you to them all for joining me. Firstly, I have David Hawes, the Sales Director of Jessie Smith. Welcome, Dino. And then David. Secondly, I have Dino Mussell, the Managing Director of Parlour Farm. Thirdly, I have Andrew McHugh, the owner of the One Shop Stop in South Cerney and Rendcomb Village Shop. And fourthly, I have Andrew Wright of Overider Fashion. And finally, but no means least, Rob Gibson, the Managing Director of Dolcetti Italian Ice Cream, who is joining me here in the studio. Welcome, Rob. As discussed last week, the discretionary grant fund supports small and micro businesses that are not eligible for any other of the government grant schemes. You can get a grant of up to £25,000 or £10,000 or any amount less than £10,000. But applications do close this Sunday, the 14th of June. The County Council has received £7.7 million from the government to help tackle the spread of coronavirus in our care homes and to protect those who receive care at the care homes. The money comes from the new National Infection Control Grant set out to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. The government has launched a Ppe Portal for healthcare providers so that they can order additional personal protective equipment through the website to top up their existing supplies for COVID-19 control in an emergency. COVID-19 tests have been offered to every care home for the elderly or for those with dementia. And I've been working with a number of care homes in the constituency to secure their testing and will continue working to improve this service. An important part of moving beyond this whole virus is getting the track and testing working efficiently, which is why immediately after this show, I am going straight to the Hempstead Meadow coronavirus testing site in Gloucester to see how it's working. Thank you all very much for joining me today. You're very welcome. And now I hand over to David.
Thank you, Sir Geoffrey, and thank you to our panel. We thought it'd be interesting, before talking to the panel, to get their views, to give you a snapshot of what's going on in one of our market towns, Tetbury, before Monday, to see how some of the retailers there are gearing themselves up for the reopening on Monday the 15th. So without further ado, can we show the video to set the scene for question time that's going to follow immediately after?
Certain non-essential shops in the Cotswolds are getting ready to reopen for the first time in a couple of months. I'm going to walk around Tetbury High Street in the rain and ask 2 or 3 shopkeepers here how they feel about reopening and also what measures they're going to put in place to keep the public safe.
Well, it's 12 weeks, so it's quite a long gap, but positive or upbeat, I think you've got to be. Obviously, it's still out there and you have to be careful, and I think people have got to take responsibility themselves to social distance and implement things like that, hand washing. So I think, you know, I can't see any problems of not opening, and we're looking forward to welcome customers back. Yes, we've got social distancing posters up. We're allowing 3 people in the shop at the moment at any one time, and we'll see how that works as to whether we can increase it or decrease it. We've got a hand sanitizer as you come in the door. We'll also have polythene gloves, which we're hoping people will put on if they're going to handle the toys. Children are welcome, but providing they're guided not to pick everything up, because as you can see, we've got lots of loose things and we're supposed to keep them wiped and clean. We've got a screen up by the till, and we've got wipes to wipe everything down with the card machine or the counter when customers leave, and the door handles. We will be wearing visors so we can still talk to the customers in here, and we hope that that implements what we need to do.
Bay Gallery Home is an Aboriginal art gallery. It's the only dedicated one in the UK, and we support Central Desert Aboriginal communities. So apart from our own livelihood, we're also supporting those of our Indigenous people in Australia. And given the Black Lives Matter movement, any sales through us will help them and Tetbury as a community as well. I'm really excited. It's been a long time that we've been shut. Even before COVID, the high street was struggling, and we've had to be really brave and innovative, and this has just given us more challenges, which you've got to rise to. So we're, as a town and for Bay Gallery Home, quite excited about next week, and we hope people have the confidence to come back here and shop independently. Yes, I've been updating my blog regularly and across my social media, and I've also put a notice on the door which is quite detailed about how I want them to behave in the shop. In the gallery, there's lots of space in there that you can go around in a one-way system. I've also asked that people don't handle anything, that they ask me if they would like to buy something and I'll get it for them.
Well, obviously we're all breathing a sigh of relief. Obviously, shops vary enormously in small towns. Some are tiny and some, like this one's, quite big. We can isolate, in a sense, much better than most. We can monitor at the door and allow 2 or 3 people in. It's not a big issue. I think it's going to be much more difficult for some small businesses. I think it's essential to get businesses open if we can, without causing a second peak. I'm sure will come. I'm quite confident we'll have a second peak in October. I think the Christmas trade may well be knocked out for many businesses. Let's hope not. Keep our fingers crossed. But I think we have to anticipate we may not be trading at Christmas. But we will do our best. We use common sense. Of course, we take government advice, but common sense will prevail. Well, this is a big shop. It consists of about 7 rooms, 7 showrooms. We will just monitor it carefully. We'll have a dispenser on the door. We will monitor it at the door to make sure there aren't too many people. In this type of business, you don't get too many people. You know, there's 3 or 4 people in the shop at once. That would be the maximum for us. So it really, for our type of business, it isn't a major problem. The government has to do, and it's radically important, is to review the rating system. We're in a small town of 10,000 population. I'm paying well over £1,000 a month for rates, which is intolerable. And although we've had a holiday for rates for a year, that was only a minimum amount of time, but we do need to review the rates. Certain small things in small towns, which is a complete nightmare, traffic wardens, which is totally unnecessary. It's only a financial gain for a local authority. It's not about traffic management. Other than that, I think town's going to struggle. I think the local authority will have to review a lot of shops won't continue. They'll end up as residential. And I think they have to review the rating system for those shops as well.
I have also been visiting the many wonderful independent retail shops we have on our high street, handing out business packs which contain information on how to implement practical measures so businesses can reopen quickly. I would like to wish good luck to all the 3 businesses featured, and of course all the other businesses as they reopen their doors. With non-essential retail opening on the 15th of June, as you can see, many of these are preparing to reopen, ensuring customer safety is paramount. After over 12 weeks with no trade-in and the high streets deserted, it is important they can now get staff back to work and of course customers returning to the shops confident it is safe to shop locally. Health and safety should be prioritised over traffic flow, and it's important cyclists and pedestrians can share the highway safely. I have been working hard with fellow district councillors, county council and the town council on how this can be actioned in the town centre. Realistic and viable schemes are currently under consultation. A rapid process is required and I hope to see some changes in the very near future. Once again, good luck to all the businesses and I look forward to shopping local again.
So this is I think a really good introduction to our panel discussion this week, because many of the issues that were raised in that video will be able to be discussed by our panel of businesses that are here with us today. So joining me today is David Hawes, the sales director of Jesse Smith. David, you are very welcome. Do you want to just explain very briefly, as an opener, how your business operates and fantastically how it's expanded in Cirencester in the last year or so with DEFRA's grants help?
Hello all. Yes, we have expanded over the last sort of 3 years. We are on the high street. You might have seen our Tetbury store in that video. We're also on Burford High Street. We're on Blackjack Street, Cirencester. We've got a farm shop up on Love Lane, and we're also over in North Leach. So we've got quite a range of retail shops. We are also a wholesale catering business. So we do operate in the hospitality sector as well. And up at our farm shop, we've also got a small cafe. So we've been hit from all sides, really. We've had to diversify during the period.
So David, can I just stop you there? Because what I want to do is get an introduction to everybody. We'll come back to everybody's businesses, how they've suffered during the period and what their plans are going forward. But if you don't mind, can I just get everybody in to start with and introduce them? So next we've got Dino Mussell, the MD of Parlour Farm. Dino, would you like to just introduce yourself, please?
Hi, yeah. Nice to see you all. I'm the managing director here at Parlour Farm Kitchens. We're a bespoke kitchen manufacturer. And like David was saying, we've had to diversify into areas that maybe we wouldn't have gone into manufacturing that we now are. We're looking at a cheaper range of kitchens, still with high quality, where we were normally high-end bespoke kitchens. We've had to look at all areas. We want to maintain our staff force down in the factory that's here in Cirencester, just around the corner from Jesse Smith's, actually. We've managed to maintain all of our staff. We're slowly bringing them back. We started with a skeleton crew, but now we're up to 11, and we're hoping to be up to 20.
Well, if I could I just want a sort of fairly brief introductions. We will come back to how you've dealt with during this coronavirus period, but just really I want to just set the scene from all our panellists. So next on our panel, we're grateful to welcome Andrew McHugh. Andrew, would you like to just briefly introduce yourself and your business?
Yep, hello, I'm Andrew McHugh. I own the one-stop shop in South Cerney and a convenience store in Rendcomb as well. We face several challenges, different challenges in both shops, to be honest, because of the different demographics in each area. During this crisis. It's been going for 12 weeks now, but I think we're quite strong. We're quite lucky to be a food retailer, so obviously we've been allowed to stay open during the whole pandemic. Yeah.
Fantastic, Andrew. And I have to apologise to the other Andrew. We're going to have to distinguish between the two of you. Andrew Wright, because I didn't speak to you during the introduction. You are really welcome. Thank you for coming on our programme, Andrew. Would you just like to tell us, I was very keen to have a clothing retailer on the programme, and you are it. So would you like to briefly introduce yourself and your business?
Hello, thank you, Sir Geoffrey. My name's Andrew Wright, and I have a clothing brand in Tetbury called Overider. We've been trading in Tetbury since 2003. And we've extended from the shop to do online sales with Overider.com. Over the last few weeks, we've now included click and collect, and we've got a few ideas in the pipeline as well.
Brilliant, Andrew. Thank you. And then last by no means least, we've got Rob Gibson. Now, I have to say, we in the studio here have benefited from Rob's presence because we've all been given a little sample of his produce, but he will explain what he does.
Good morning, Sir Geoffrey. My name is Rob Gibson. I'm the MD of Dolcetti Ice Cream in Love Lane. We manufacture traditional Italian gelato and sorbets. And in the last 12 weeks, our business is made up of 3 parts. We have the retail outlets, of which we have 7 parlours around the country. We supply a lot of restaurants in the Cotswolds, right down to Bristol and Bournemouth and Cardiff as well. And then we also do a lot of big public events like the Air Tattoo, that sort of thing. The last 12 weeks has seen a significant change to our business, and we've had to adapt and change at the Parlour because the restaurants have closed, the public events have closed, and all of our parlours have closed. But at the factory, we've changed to a new product line, which has been very successful with home deliveries.
Well done, Rob. I have to say his ice cream was delicious and I can recommend it to anybody. So I'd like to first of all really come to Andrew Wright, because Andrew, I think everybody's got a tough task on Monday, keeping everybody socially distanced and health and safety to the fore and keeping people safe. But I can't imagine how a clothes outlet is going to manage this. People are going to touch the clothes, they're going to try them on. How are you going to manage all of this?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think it's a case of we're going to have to just learn and adapt. Certainly, we've put in place all the guideline measurements. We've putting screens up into the above the tills. The fitting rooms are going to be closed. The shop's going to be spotlessly clean, and we've done a new shop fit throughout to keep the enjoyment and excitement of fashion alive when people come into the shop. So there's a lot of work going on. It's going to be completely a different experience. But I think my main priority is for customers and employees to feel safe, confident, relaxed, and then they'll have an enjoyable experience.
I think that's really important. And how are you going to persuade people not to touch the clothes other than perhaps an item that they're going to buy?
Yeah. Well, that is the guidelines. The guidelines are that they're not meant to touch or to try not to touch the products, not to try them on. And when it comes to returns, they'll just literally go into a container and into an enclosed separate room. That is the guidelines. And we're going to follow those guidelines to the letter because we want customers to be confident that they're not going to get, catch a virus from us.
So the shopping experience in your shop is going to change because my fiancée loves to if she's going to buy a dress, likes to sort of put it up on her and look at herself in the mirror and see whether it would fit. I'm getting frantic waves from the technical team that I'm out of shot there, but I wanted to demonstrate how people shop. How are people going to do it?
Well, luckily I don't have to put the stuff on, but yes, it is going to be different. A lot of customers actually don't necessarily try the clothes on in the shop now. They do take it home. It's going to certainly help our online sales because it could be considered, why go to a shop if there's a risk of mixing with other people that may be carrying a virus? You can't try the clothing on and you can't touch the clothing. What's the point of going to a shop? So it is a challenge. Our job is to make the shop as an enjoyable experience as possible, so that people want to go shopping, and that's really the challenge, and that's what we're focusing on.
Thank you very much. I'd like to come to you, David. I'm sorry I rather cut you off in your prime during the introduction, but now is your chance to explain how you've expanded the business and how you actually managed with it all during this dreadful coronavirus period.
Yes, we had to change tactics quite quickly, to be honest with you. We employ about 65 people, and a lot of them, as soon as the government's announced the changes that needed to happen, we had to act very quickly. So basically overnight we developed an online store. We had to close down all of our shops, and then we went straight into a click and collect and a home delivery service to support our loyal customer base, and also to keep all of our producers going, all of our local farmers going, and also to keep the stock rolling and to keep money coming in. It has been incredibly difficult for us. We try to support as many people as possible throughout the Cotswolds and further afield. With our wholesale business, obviously all of our restaurants and hotels, the majority of them shut down. I would say that the ones that have stayed open and diversified and done in-store small shops or done home deliveries or takeaways have been quite successful. But I think we've all got to stay positive. We tried to stay as positive as possible throughout this, and just tried to support our loyal customer base and the vulnerable people in the local area where all of our shops are based. In the past 2 weeks, we have reopened our high street shops, and our farm shop has now been open for a month and a half. So we are now adapting and trying to move forward with government guidelines and what our customers want and how safe they feel. So as people feel safer, we have then been able to develop more in our shops. So at first we started with opening our farm shop at first with one person in the store. We've now gone up to two, and now we're allowing two of the same family in at once, which is working incredibly well, actually. This week we have now opened our cafe up at the farm for takeaways. And we're constantly trying to develop and move with what our customer base are asking for, really. So we're just being guided by government legislation and our customers.
So on that point about moving your customer base to what they're asking for, do you anticipate that your business will undergo permanent change through people having got used to ordering online, the click and collect system, that they're going to stick with that rather than actually coming into your shops? Or do you think things will go back to how they were?
So it's a very good question. We've had quite a change, obviously, with developing our online store. We have had a lot of positive feedback from our customers. They've said that they've enjoyed the service, they've enjoyed the product, and obviously it's quite convenient. However, a lot of our customers do like that personal service of seeing a butcher or seeing the cheese being cut in front of them. So they want that service as well. So I think as a business, what we've tried to do is do both. We are continuing to do our online deliveries to those that are vulnerable. And we will continue to do that. But we are also now opening our shops longer hours, potentially longer days as well, as to try and keep those customers that want that personal service going. And also we're seeing a lot of customers that we haven't seen in ages, obviously, that want to come out and actually they want to come out and see us. They want to come out and just see how we've been doing, see what the products are like, and they want to see the freshness in front of them. They don't just necessarily want to order it all online. So I suppose what we're trying to do is move with the times, and if someone is vulnerable, then we do still have that delivery option.
I have to say that apart from the barn, my highlight of the week has been going out with my fiancée to do the food shopping. I never thought in my lifetime that would be the case, but there we are. I'm sure customers will want to see, as I do, going into one of your shops and seeing what the quality and what is really good quality today and a good price as opposed to something that was last week. So I'm sure people will come back to your shops. Dino, tell us a little bit about the problems that you've had with your business during this coronavirus period.
Thank you, Sir Geoffrey. I guess that the instant hit is for us is that we once we're designed a kitchen, we need to go in and survey the room where the kitchen is going to be installed. And that requires going into people's homes, which is a very, very awkward and tricky situation to social distance sometimes when doing so. But also then when we go to manufacture, we've then got to come to the installation, where 2 of our installations team will go into the home and will be there for the best part of a week in order to do that installation. So we've had to adapt some new rules straight away from the offset, that we need to be able to have complete access to that room with a separate access that people in the home might be using. Alternatively, if they've been unable to do that, we've been lucky enough to have a property that we do rentals with in South Cerney, just around the corner from Andrew. And we're offering people to be able to go and stay there whilst we do the installation. So to vacate their home, and we go in, do the installation, do a full clean up afterwards, and then hand the keys back to the customer afterwards. So yeah, complete change.
Fantastic. And how many people do you employ normally? How many have you got at work at the moment? And where do you manufacture your kitchens?
So we employ 26. We brought back, when we reopened manufacturing last Monday, we brought back a skeleton team of 5 in the factory, which is here in Cirencester and in the industrial estate. So we've started to manufacture for those that are sites that they're not living in. So properties that people have been developing, they're living somewhere else. So we brought back a skeleton team to complete those orders. As we found last week, we've got more people that now are opening up to the fact and inviting us to be able to access their property with separate access. So as of next week, we're bringing another 3 back to the factory. We've brought 2 of the designers back. So we're now up to 11, and we're hoping by the beginning of July to have all 26 back and manufacturing at full speed. So, yeah.
And I mean, one of the issues that perhaps we might discuss with others on the panel is confidence, isn't it? Are you anticipating that your customers are going to come back in the numbers that you require, and that they are going to have the money, bearing in mind they may not have been able to work, to be able to buy your products? Is this going to be a problem for your business? Bearing in mind that your each, as it were, purchase is quite a big purchase. It's a big decision. Are you worried about people making those decisions?
100%, which was an area that we addressed a couple of months ago now, in the fact that, yes, how much, it's a big ticket item. It's, how many of those people are we going to have through the door that are going to want to spend that kind of volume of money? So we diversified fairly early on and had a product designed and tested in manufacture to a different end of the marketplace. So we've addressed it with a new product which we're releasing next week, which is called the Sebastian James range by Parlour Farm. It's a lay-on kitchen. It misses out the mill and all of the cabinet makers. So what normally takes 6 to 8 weeks in manufacture for a bespoke kitchen, we can now produce in a week. So the man hours are much less. So in turn, the end product price is half the price of what the bespoke kitchens that we've normally sold would be. Not something we were planning on going into, but now seems a very popular choice.
What a great example of entrepreneurism, changing your business to try and suit a market. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Andrew, you and I, of course, have met because you very kindly invited me to open your shop when it opened in South Cerney. And what I was tremendously impressed with was the fantastic layout you had. You could see all of your very large number of products very clearly, and you had quite some products on special offer. How have your sales been through the period, and how are you encouraging people to come back into your shop safely? Are you going to limit the number of people at any one time, or how are you going to do this?
Yes, hello. So we've been, as you can probably imagine, quite busy during the last 3 months or so during the pandemic. We have been limiting customers right from the start into the shop. We've got a limit of 7 people in the shop at once at the moment. It does form queues outside sometimes, but 99.9% of the people completely understand that social distancing is in effect. and they have to wait to come in, basically. But yeah, sales have been extremely high in the South Cerney shop. There's been different challenges in each of our stores. So South Cerney sales have been very high, and Rendcomb relies quite heavily on the college. So sales have dipped in that shop, but it's about changing who we go after, changing our demographics, basically. So in the Rendcomb shop, the challenge has been converting from mostly the pupils who have been using us for snacks, and teachers and staff who've been using us for snacks, to the local community. So we've got a lot more fresh fruit and veg in, fresh bread, groceries, that kind of thing, and steering away from the snacks, just to try and keep the business up a little bit in Rendcomb. In South Cerney, the challenges have been basically just educating people on social distancing in the shop, having measures in to protect our customers and our staff, and just making sure everyone's safe and having as good a time as possible while they're in the bricks and mortar shop.
So I mean this in the nicest possible way, but having talked to you when I opened the shop, I sort of got the impression, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, that you're a young man in a hurry, you're ambitious. Tell our audience a little bit about your future ambitions.
Yeah, so I'd like, the plan is to have 10 retail stores in the next 8 years. Obviously, that's been put on hold a little bit at the moment. I actually put an offer in on a shop before this pandemic started that obviously has been completely on hold for 3 months or so now. But yeah, the plan is to expand eventually. We're actually looking at expanding the South Cerney shop at the moment. Again, that was something that was planned before the pandemic, but it has been put on hold. We are actually starting that process again now, so that should be happening fairly soon, I'm hopeful. As I say, we've seen a huge increase in trade, and I think that we will maintain some of that trade after or when this dies down a little bit. I mean, I'm not naive enough to say we'll maintain all that trade, but I think that some people's shopping habits will be permanently changed after this. So I think we'll come out of this stronger than we went in, if I'm being honest.
So have you been offering, like David, any sort of click and collect? Has there been an opportunity to buy your produce online in any way?
Not online, but we do offer home delivery in both shops now. So people can ring up, pay over the phone, and we deliver same day for them. We've just been offering this to the vulnerable people in the communities who can't get out, and we haven't been charging a delivery fee, just because we need to be supporting our local communities, both South Cerney and Rendcomb, really.
Fantastic. And Rob, let's just turn to you. You having whet our appetite with a sample of your excellent ice cream, I'm intrigued by your business. Tell the listeners a little bit about what you do and how you source the produce. This is really fascinating.
Thank you, Sir Geoffrey. We manufacture traditional Italian gelato based on recipes from Bologna, which about 50 years ago. We use no artificial flavourings or colourings. It's a pure traditional product. And we have a very strong ethos in our business of using as much local produce as possible. For example, every day we collect fresh milk from a local farm in the middle of milking, so it arrives in the factory as fresh milk.
Tell us which farm it is. Give them a bit of praise.
College Farm in Ampney St Mary's. It's a family-run farm. The Bennetts, Tom, Vanessa and Joe run it. And as I say, we collect to 4:30 every day in the middle of milking, so it arrives at the factory in traditional churns, still as hot milk, and then we pasteurise that. We use British sugar, and we get our fruit from fruit farms in Hereford. And also, unfortunately, we have to buy a lot of ingredients from abroad, so our mango comes from southern India. We get some fruits and nuts from Italy. And all of our packaging, etc., the majority is UK sourced. So it's one of the ethos that we've had in the business all along, is to try and support local firms and family-run businesses as much as we possibly can.
So if somebody wants to source really high-quality, locally produced food, you are it. Tell us about some of the problems that you've had during this coronavirus period. How has it affected your business?
Well, as I said in the introduction, our business is made up of different parts. The restaurant trade and hotel and catering trade is quite significant for us. That obviously closed immediately. We also do a lot of very big public events, and we have a team and equipment to go to these large events, and we are booked up right up till September with events, and those have all been cancelled. And then we have we have 7 retail parlours around the country. As of this morning, 3 of them are still closed. They're gradually opening up. One opens tomorrow. And then at the factory, we make it all, and you can actually watch us make it. We have a retail outlet as well there. What we did do is the first few weeks, we really took stock of the situation. We'd made a lot of stock for the events, pre-made, furloughed all of our staff, and then changed the model a little bit by partnering with local companies to distribute our product in home deliveries. So Siren Eats is a local company here. They pick up and deliver to people's homes of meals and things. We partnered with a company in Cricklade who distributes in Swindon and the Oxford area. We partnered with a restaurant chain that was doing home deliveries, and they're based in Cheltenham, Oxford, Cardiff, and Bristol and Bournemouth. And they've been taking our product and using it as part of the offering in their meals. And we partnered with somebody in Tetbury to distribute product as well. And then we started developing some new luxury handmade desserts, which we've launched, and they've been quite successful. A number of restaurants have shown interest when the gardens open, that they want a product that they can put out of the garden. And then very excitedly, the last week, we've also started doing some new product development with a local chef, Andrew Codgemer from Cheltenham. That was something in the pipeline. It was, we were meant to do it on the Wednesday, and then obviously we were closed on the Monday. So that's ongoing. We should hopefully finish that next week. The saddest thing for us is we were talking to a national restaurant chain who has restaurants in all the major cities in the country, and their meetings were scheduled for the 2 weeks following the shutdown. Clearly those were all put on hold, but I'm very positive about that coming back on stream in the future.
So I want to ask all of you, and a sort of fairly quick fire question to all of you, and I'll start, while I'm with you, Rob, start with you on this question. How difficult is the 2-metre social distancing going to be for you in your business, and what difference would a reduction from 2 metres to 1 metre make to your business?
Okay, so in our walk-in parlour at the factory, we have the 2-metre demarcation anyway, and as we're a takeaway business, customers have been very accommodating of that and have been, well, self-controlled. The biggest impact that we would have is in the restaurant trade with 2 metres, because clearly a lot of our product is consumed within the restaurants, and if restaurants are running at 25 or 30% capacity because of the 2-metre rule, that's going to have a significant impact long-term on the consumption of our product. So, as I said, it's part of two stories for us. Directly at the factory and the parlour, very little impact. Restaurants, a very, very big impact.
So what would be really interesting to know from you, Andrew McHugh, as somebody at the sharp end where you've got a lot of footfall of customers, and I'm going to ask all of you the same question, going through in a short space of time, what difference would a 2 metre reduction, 2 metres reducing to 1 metre social distancing, if the government came out with that it was safe to do so, what difference would that make to your business?
I think it would just offer customers more confidence, to be honest, in entering the shop and maybe spending a bit longer in the shop rather than rushing through, just browsing the products at a more leisurely pace, really, rather than, you know, checking the door all the time, seeing if someone else has come in. Because I think, rightly so, I think a few people are quite nervous at the moment about coming out shopping. And they are quite nervous about people getting closer than that 2 metre rule. So I think if that was reduced to 1 metre, it would just give consumers more confidence in entering a bricks and mortar shop.
And David, I mean, you've got a lot of mixed businesses, but I mean, in your shops again, presumably as with Andrew, if the government were to safely announce that it was safe to reduce from 2 metre to 1 metre, would that help you hugely?
I think it would. Similar to Andrew, I think our customers like to spend their time browsing and talking to our staff and to myself about the products, and they don't like to feel pressured. You know, with a certain number of people in the shop and a queue behind them, then they're always feeling like they need to be in a hurry. They need to get out the shop as quick as possible. And with the reduction, I know that people will feel a little bit more confident to come out as well. And they'll be able to browse and talk to our staff in greater detail. Yes, definitely. I'd welcome the change.
Good. And Andrew, I mean, in your clothing shop, I imagine that you will have a difficulty opening, because I don't know what the size of your shop is. I regret I've never been in, but I will go in to have a look in future. But I don't know how many people you could safely accommodate at one time with 2 metres, and what a difference reducing from 2 to 1 metre would make to you.
Yeah, well, our shop, we have 2 floors, and the measurements would tell us that we can take about 6 to 8 people in our shop with the 2 metre distance rule. That's pretty, we wouldn't get many more than 8, apart from at Christmas. We wouldn't necessarily get that amount of people in our shop anyway. By the nature of a small little clothing shop in Tetbury, to have 2 or 3 or 4 people in the shop is pretty normal. So it doesn't really impact on us too much. And the 1 metre, changing the 1 metre rule actually wouldn't really make any difference to us, really. I'm a bit nervous about changing things when the science says something different, if that's what the science says. I understand there's a balance. We have to balance the economy with the virus, but let's not, undo a lot of the work that we've done over the last 2 or 3 months, if it's going to lead to another downturn at Christmas because the virus comes back in a stronger way, because that could be catastrophe.
So the message you're giving to me to give to the government is, by all means, consider this, but you would urge caution if it's going to mean that there's going to be another spike in the winter, which would then affect you at a very important time at Christmas.
I think that is possibly the most important thing. I think it would have a significant damage to our economy if we all have to lock down again in November, December time, knowing that after Christmas, January, February and March are quite, as far as fashion's concerned, clothing's concerned, they are quiet months. So if we lose the peak trading season, knowing that we're going to go into a very, very quiet trading season, that is very, very concerning indeed.
Okay, I'm going to give the last word to you, Dino, because I'm being told we're running out of time. What difference would it make to your business reducing the distance from 2 metres to 1 metre?
I think within the showroom, it won't make any difference at all for us. We're very lucky. We've got an 8,500 square foot showroom, so we can handle an awful large number of people. What it will do is, and I really hope, is that it will bring back some confidence with people within their own home, and will allow us to move a bit freer within their home, and the confidence from the customer to allow us to do a consultation in their home, the survey in their home, and the installation, I think will be beneficial to the business. So it's all about the customer confidence for us, because the social distancing in the showroom, as I say, is no problem.
So I'm going to go around all of you, and I just want one number. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. How many months is it going to take to get your businesses, each of you, back to where it was before the virus? And I'm going to, again, start with you, Dino, on that. How many months?
12. 12.
Andrew, McHugh?
Difficult, because we're better than we were. So to get evened out again, I'd say it'd probably be about 2 or 3 months before it starts to even out again.
The other Andrew?
It's impossible to say, Sir Geoffrey, but we're working really hard promoting the website, Overider.com.
David,
I think we're going to hit our targets very, very quickly.
Brilliant. David, what about you?
Obviously, we're quite diverse in terms of wholesale. As soon as the restaurants can open, let's say, hopefully we should be back in 2 months. Retail-wise, we're pretty much back to full strength now.
Fantastic. Thank you. And finally, Rob, how long will it take you to get back?
Again, same with David, different parts of the business. Some would take 12 months. Some we're doing better than before. So restaurants are key for us. So hopefully within 2 to 3 months of reopening.
So can I thank all our panellists very much. I think it's been a fascinating session. I think not only have we learnt more about your businesses, but we've also hopefully encouraged the consumer to think that it will be safe next week, and all of you, and I'm sure every other business out there, is going to look after their consumers' health and safety. But please, everybody, consider going back to their shops because they need you. Thank you very much indeed. David.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Geoffrey. Well, you'll be interested to note that because our question style format does prompt a lot of questions, and we've got some interesting questions picking up on what the panel have said. So the first question is to do with the science, which is what Andrew was talking about. Feeling here from Janet is that we're lacking experts in entomology and infection control to discuss how to open a shop safely. And she feels that perhaps the priority is money over health. At least there is no pretense of being science-led. So would you concur with that view?
Well, I think, Janet, it's an interesting question. I think that policymakers, including scientists, advise, and then it's up to politicians, the Prime Minister downwards, to make a decision. And he has to take into account a wider range of things. So clearly, the longer it takes to get Britain back to work, the more all of these and every other business up and down the country will take to get back, and also there's a risk to jobs. So of course we've got to be driven by the science, and of course we want to try and minimise any possible spike. But on the other hand, there is also a danger of unlocking too slowly and the risk to jobs and the economy. So this, as I've always said, is a really, really difficult balance the Prime Minister and his government have to take.
Okay, thank you, Sir Geoffrey. We've got two questions from Richard Harrison, one from last week, which I'd like to introduce, and then the one that he's just sent in. Last week he said, and we didn't get to speak to him about it, be interested to know what you've been trying to do to ensure that the most important sector of the economy for the Cotswolds, and we've heard from some of our panel today, it's the hospitality side of their business that's key, and what efforts you've been able to make to try and get a response from ministers locally so that we can actually start to get some more locally driven activity, particularly in relation to hospitality. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah. Well, Richard, you've become a regular questioner on our show, and you're quite right. The hospitality, tourism and leisure sector really, I suppose, in terms of social distancing and health and safety, is perhaps the most difficult sector, which is why, of course, the government put particular help in place very quickly with the business grants for specifically for businesses in that sector, came out very, very quickly at the start of the virus. And you raised it, others raised it on this show, I raised it with government, and the government responded very quickly at the beginning of the period. I think that what we've heard today is that some businesses will emerge from this whole coronavirus quicker than others, and I think that is inevitable. And I think that it is going to be more difficult for the hospitality industry, as you've heard from one or two of our panellists today whose businesses are involved in that. Trying to open a pub or a hotel or a cafe and trying to keep social distancing is far more difficult than a manufacturing business like Dino's, where he can ask the householder to clear the house and then let his team go in and they can keep social distancing. So I think this is going to be an easing of the lockdown, but I think it's not going to be at the same speed. I will keep pressing the case for the hospitality industry. I did it on the quarantine issue, which I think is a nonsense, and we will hope that the government will alter the quarantine rules at the end of the 3-week review period on the 28th of June, so that we can allow more inward visitors into this country, which of course will benefit all of these visitors, all of these businesses. As you've rightly pointed out, the Cotswold is heavily reliant on tourism, and we are heavily reliant not only on indigenous visitors, but also foreign visitors as well.
Richard's actually becoming probably our most popular contributor, because he's got several questions at the end of the show, so hopefully we'll be able to get to them. But if not, Richard, you have to bear with us for an extra week. His second question is, what action do shops need to take if someone is identified by the testing and tracing situation? So if you've discovered that someone's got the virus or infected and that they've been into your shop, what do you then do as a shop to counter that? Also, what is being done to encourage the wearing of face masks and other forms of covering when people are going into shops? Interestingly, all of our panel talked about social distancing, but I don't remember them saying anything about face masks or gloves. So interested to know about protective clothing.
So it's probably my fault because I could have asked them all that question. I think on the tracking and tracing, if somebody is identified as having been into a particular shop, clearly that shop owner will need to be notified. They will need to examine very carefully who has come into contact with that person, and they may well need to social isolate themselves. But that is why I think the track and tracing system is very important, because it's the whole idea of the system is to actually limit the movement and contact with people very quickly so that they don't contact too many people and make them have to self-isolate. So that leads us, I think, nicely, David, onto the second part of that question. Everybody has a responsibility in this respect. If they've got symptoms, for goodness sake, please don't go out and pass them on to others. If you haven't got symptoms, please be considerate of others. And I think wearing of masks, although I have to say that I haven't done it yet, but I think the advice is changing on this compared to the beginning of the rush. I think probably bearing others in mind, one perhaps should wear masks where one's likely to come in anything like 2 meters or less. And I think that would be helpful, not only perhaps to the mask wearer themselves, but to other people.
Okay, question from Chris. When will clear guidance for hotels be released? Feedback from many hotels in the Cotswolds that nothing is being done and the issues over this, and that could result, even though people are furloughed, which is a big issue, people are furloughed thinking they're going to come back to a job, but actually we're seeing people being made redundant. I know unemployment in the Cotswolds is a subject you want to talk about in more detail in the future, but any guidance emerging on hotels?
Well, of course, we had the owner of the Stratton House Hotel on our panel, was it last week? And I think that opening of hotels is quite difficult, but I think there will be general guidance on this, and I wouldn't be surprised if during the month of July, hotels and other hospitality institutions will, under certain guidance, be able to open. It won't be easy for a start because it's going to involve deep cleaning of where people have touched things. But I'm hopeful that as we get into the summer, and it's important that we do try and get some of these hospitality businesses open in July, otherwise they will have not only lost the spring part of their business, they'll also lose the summer part of their business. So I am very mindful of that. The government is too, and I think it will be looking closely to see what guidance we can have to open as many businesses as possible.
Yeah, I'm going through the questions that are coming in on a live stream in chronological order. The next question I'm not going to duck, but I'm going to get you to answer it at the end, because you always like to have a really in-your-face question, Sir Geoffrey.
I have it now. I don't mind.
Like it?
Have it
Okay,
now.
I'm going to give it to you. This is from James. Ask him if he's proud to be the bottom-ranked MP for openness and responsiveness, if you remember that poll that was done over a year ago to your constituents. Before you answer it, I just want to say that I've been working with you on 13 shows over 3 months. You've not ducked a question. You've answered every single question, and you've answered, I think, I've worked out about 300 questions. So would you like to answer that question?
I will take it face on. I wasn't asked to participate or even consulted about that survey. It was done on false data. It was done, one of the main criteria in that survey is whether you had any research assistants, which they assumed that I didn't, which is completely untrue. So I think if it was done on an objective basis, I don't know what basis that survey was done, but I think if it was done on an objective basis, I would fare considerably better. Now, one of the things that was criticised in that survey was my use of social media. Well, I think actually I've been one of the most active social media MPs in the entire country during this this coronavirus, particularly by producing these shows. So I suspect whoever asked you the question,
James,
if the survey was done, James, if it was done again, I'd be well up there in the top half.
As ever, Sir Geoffrey, you get it straight and you give it straight. So thank you for that. And I may be biased, I may be partisan, but I think you're doing a great job here in supporting your constituents and in business community.
Thank you.
Right. Rita Allen, how is it okay for people to go into rental properties? She said that we're told that we have to stay at home and not stay anywhere else. Is it allowed for us to go into rental properties?
Well, I think the government are giving guidelines. As I say, I was being a little bit cautious when I was talking about hotels, and I think much the same problem applies to hotels as opposed to holiday homes. It's a question of cleaning between one guest and the next. And I think that there will be additional guidance on this so that hopefully some of these rental homes, holiday homes, hotels will be able to open in July. But I think there will be guidance very clearly as to how to have a thorough and deep clean between each guest.
Okay, question from Melissa Ormiston, who is someone who works locally and is part of Rock the Cotswolds, and she wants us to look at the whole issue of education and primary schools and that debate, which we're going to have next week anyway. It just so happens that Rock the Cotswolds approached us at the time when we were thinking about it. So looking forward to Melissa coming involved in the show next week. She's making a comment about the vast majority of shoppers are parents who are all stuck at home learning and trying to claw back an income. When can we get funding for schools, as with the UK High Street Task Force, to get all of our children back into schools so that we can all get out there shopping again? So she's looking at this whole thing from a slightly different perspective. Good question.
So, Melissa, I'm looking forward to working with you on the panel next week. We're looking forward to having you on, and we will discuss these issues next week. These are vital issues. Everybody wants the children back to school because they're missing out on their learning. There's a problem for parents having to homeschool and home care for children, not being able to get back to their normal jobs, which is one of the reasons why, if you remember, at the beginning of the lockdown, the government thought it could possibly get away with keeping schools going, but the scientific evidence became such that we had to close down the schools as well. Personally, I think, and I've already contacted the government about this, that schools it should still be able to take some pupils back if they can do it safely. And after all, about 70% of our schools in Gloucestershire have been open during the crisis in one way or another to keep educating frontline workers, children. So it's just a question of slight expanding on what they're already doing. So I would say to schools, I'm sure the government will be clarifying this, but it's a question that they are expecting everybody to go back in September, but I don't think they are actually preventing any parent that wanted to, with cooperation of the headmaster or headmistress, to go back to the relevant years in primary and the relevant years in secondary anytime soon. But I think you'll find this week the government will be giving further guidance on this.
So, Geoffrey, you wanted to run this show till 12 o'clock. I know you've got another commitment. We have got some more questions. Are you happy to take a few more questions?
Yes, but I shall have to travel hopefully a little faster going to Gloucester, but not breaking the speed limit.
OK, well, that's a message to Gloucestershire, please. Please don't...
No, I don't want any messages. They'll be following me extra carefully.
Right, I know you'll obey the law. I think you know how important these questions are, and you know also how people write to us if we don't answer their questions.
But perhaps we can make it 5 minutes.
I'm going to make it very, very quick. 5 more minutes on questions. Then do you want to end with your Westminster update?
Yes.
You happy with that? Great. OK. Cressy Landless, who's also a regular contributor. We've all been made aware of the dangers and how easy it is to catch the virus, but there seems to still be some uncertainty. With shops opening and hopefully soon pubs and restaurants opening, does the government have in mind some hard and fast directions regarding exactly what is safe and what is not? OK? This issue of 2 metres is safe, and in some shops people will get closer to you. So she's saying there's a lot of sort of confusion out there.
Well, I don't think there is much confusion, and I think you will have heard, I hope, and been reassured by our 5 panellists this morning, that they, and I'm sure businesses up and down this land, take this business of health and safety and social distancing very seriously. And people like Andrew at his shop in South Cerney have been operating large numbers of people coming through his shop, but making sure that there's only a certain number in his shop at any one time. So I think that any shopper who doesn't feel happy about the situation should, of course, talk to the shop owner. But I think, on the whole, it sounded to me from the panel this morning that everybody's taking this incredibly serious. This is very serious. It's people's lives potentially at risk. And until the government alters the guidelines on the 2 metre spacing, that is what it will have to be. And I've already made clear, in my own personal opinion, I think it's socially responsible for people who are going to these shops shops where there's any question that they're getting too close to people, they should definitely wear masks.
Great. Question from Steve Jones. Two of our panellists talked about using local and British food. Well, one's obviously producing it. That's great talking about local and British food, but did you vote to uphold the UK standards or lower them to allow poor quality imports? You've asked this question.
I'll answer it again very quickly.
I know you
I
like
abstained
to
on the issue because the government is currently negotiating with itself. The Department of Trade and the Department of Agriculture is negotiating with itself as to how to, of course, and I'm absolutely 100% as strong as anybody being a farmer. I'm with all our panellists who buy and produce locally sourced goods. We want the high standards that currently exist in the United Kingdom. But at the same time, if we are to prosper as a nation, we have to do trade deals around the world. And that means we'll have to work out how to work with countries. And there are many in the European Union at the moment who we trade perfectly happily with, who have lower standards, and we manage that. So there's a way of managing this going forward with new trade deals, but it was just that the government hadn't at the time that we were voting on that amendment, and still haven't quite resolved this whole issue. When they do, I will be happy to vote for a bill that has higher standards in it, and I expect to be able to do that by the time it reaches third reading in the House of Commons.
Okay, thank you, Sir Geoffrey. There's a plug here for you, Rob, from the Growth Hub. Can't wait to try Dolcetti Ice Cream Company and Coge Cheltenham collaboration. So, well done, one of your new initiatives. Looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to some more ice cream as well. So don't leave.
You've got to buy it next time, David.
Yes,
You've got to get it for free.
He's never ever given
Otherwise
me
his
ice
business
cream.
won't prosper.
Because it's you. I never get free ice cream from Rob. He's a sound businessman. 3 questions from Richard Harrison quickly. What is social distancing guidelines going to reflect this? When are social distancing guidelines going to reflect the scientific evidence that talking increases droplet generation? Well, I think we've discussed that in terms of the meters
Rob,
and
the
masks.
government will be watching scientific guidance very carefully as opposed to getting Britain back to work, and there's a risk either way.
It is not balancing the economy against safety if relaxation of the rules leads to a second wave. Well, I thought Andrew said that from Overider very clearly. Yes, we all want to get back business, but it's all about safety, and that, if you remember, was the theme for today. Richard Harrison, last question. Last for today, I hope. Why can't pubs, etc., with gardens open with those sooner?
Well, as I say, the government will produce guidance on this.
Okay.
We've discussed this in the past. I think the problem is you may have a certain number in the garden at any one time. If another lot turn up, are you going to get rid of the first lot? So I think there are issues concerned. And your previous question majored on health and safety, and all of these things we just need to be careful as we ease the lockdown that we have take full account of health and safety.
Amanda Jane Davis, who was one of our panellists, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, came down here especially from Bourton. She was upset that we moved the time, but I did point out to her that you have to work as well. You're back at work. In fact, you've never stopped. But she's now contributing again, so great to have you back on, Amanda. She just wants to make a couple of pleas for the North Cotswolds. One is that Pullman's is a major public transport provider who you've heard about, and they've contacted you. They have a superb video outlining the safety measures they have introduced on board their vehicles. Please highlight this, as it may help people who are worried about going to the high street responsibly. So thanks, Pullman's, and thanks, Amanda. Also, Country House in Bourton is opening second week in July at 50% occupancy with careful plans for safety. That's interesting. It's a hospitality business. Chris Wally, I always be careful what I say about people's names. So Chris, he's congratulating you on answering his question. So well done, Sir Geoffrey, for giving it straight. Thank you for that. Helen, how are our shops going to open if their staff have school-aged children and are still at home? What's going to happen to the workforce? Because a lot of, obviously, people who go have children at school are working in shops. I just think we've got to address that.
So that's why I think we will get guidance from the government this week that anybody who wants to send their children back, and if they're in the relevant classes in primary or secondary, will be able to do so.
And we're going to talk about schools next week.
We'll be able to do so in conjunction with the headmaster and headmistress.
Yeah.
This isn't a prohibition, but it's where people want to do so.
Right. 2 more quickly, Sir Geoffrey, and then your Westminster update. Rob, this is the rental. This is the rental homes that, according to your vote, you didn't think should be fit for human habitation, except at the discretion of landlords. Not sure what that question's about, but
I don't know what it's about either.
We'll have to take it. We'll take it offline.
I support all hospitality businesses and want them all to prosper, and it's particularly important in the Cotswolds. So I'm afraid I don't get the question.
And I would like to say that if there's one MP that's been pushing for business across the whole of the constituency to reopen safely, it's you.
Well, I was one of the first. I was front page of the Times on, I think, the 28th of April on the Today programme, almost ahead of anybody else, pressing for Britain to consider opening up the lockdown.
Jenny would like to echo the question about working parents get back to work in shops if their children are still being at home schooled. What are the government doing to make sure schools open? We've talked about that sensibly.
And we will, Jenny, tune in next week because we'll have a whole panel on this subject.
Rob, abstaining is tantamount to endorsing the lowering of food standards and animal living conditions. Well, you've answered that. He's making a comment about the presenter. I don't know if it's me, probably it is, but I'll leave people to look at the live stream about that comment because I think you're wonderful and I think I'm wonderful.
I think we can take it. He's not a supporter.
Yeah,
and everybody, it's a free country. Everybody's entitled to support or not. The only thing I would say, was it Rob?
Yes, it was.
In a democracy, you have the right not to listen to the programme.
Yeah, or watch it even. Okay. Anyway, it's now your Westminster update. Thank you, Sir Geoffrey. Thank you, Rob. And can I hand over to you and for you to close the show? Thank you, Sir Geoffrey. And we've answered all the questions, which is brilliant.
So, David, thank you. So this is the Westminster part of my announcements today. For more information on any of the following announcements, as I've said many times before, go to the government website, www.gov.uk/coronavirus. There is an enormous amount of information and guidance available on that website, and it's frequently updated with questions that people frequently ask and with all the updated lockdown guidance. The Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development has said that, my glasses were glinting, has said that due to the impact of the COVID-19, the UK's economy could reduce by 11.5% in 2020. Chancellor Rishi Sunak said in response to that report that due to the unprecedented action taken by the government to support the economy, it will ensure that we bounce back strongly in the second year. From June the 15th onwards, zoos and other outdoor attractions, such as safari parks, drive-in cinemas, will open as part of the government's plan to cautiously restore our way of life. Working closely with the zoo industry, we are confident this can be done safely with safeguards and limit on visitor numbers, while providing families with more options to spend time out of doors where the risk of transmission is far lower. From this weekend, single adult households, meaning adults living in alone or single parents with children under the 18, can form a support bubble with one other household. All those in a support bubble will be able to act as if they live in the same household, and they do need to stay 2 metres apart. Support bubbles must be exclusive, meaning you cannot switch the household and you are in a bubble with or connect. You cannot be in a bubble connecting with multiple households. And if any member of the support bubble develops symptoms, of course, they must socially isolate. The government has announced, whilst primary schools won't be required to open for all years, for a month before the summer, schools with the capacity will be able to welcome back some of the children before the holidays, as I've already said. Getting children back to school is an absolute priority, which is why we've already prioritised getting early years and year 1 and year 6 back to school, with some secondary school pupils also returning to school on Monday too. In the meanwhile, we are ensuring that children can continue to learn from home, backed by £100 million of government funding, providing children from disadvantaged backgrounds across England with free laptops, tablets, as well as 3G routers for those families who do not already have internet access. In Gloucestershire, some 10,469 children attended school on the 1st of June, with 81%, not 70 as I said earlier, 81% of schools open to more children on June the 1st. This was the highest proportion in the Southwest, and a great tribute to all those teachers and parents who helped reopen in difficult circumstances those schools, and many thanks to them. There's also, I would like to pay one other tribute. There is one other sector that we've really neglected in this whole crisis, and that is community nurses. And I pay particular tribute to them because not only have they had to be located into hospitals in some cases, they've had an incredible workload. They've been very stretched, often working in difficult conditions. So to our community nursing team, I pay a particular tribute. Thank you all very much for listening to me today. I think it's been a great show personally, and continue listening because next week we're going to discuss education and how to get children and pupils back to school. Thank you.
Welcome to the Circus Cabaret!
In March 2018, we opened our doors to the public with a vision not just to create challenging professional theatre, but to use this as a platform to inspire and bring communities together. Theatre and culture build identity. With theatre and culture in our local life, the community landscape is more vibrant. Local life is enriched. We believe that the benefits of theatre should be available for everyone. Our Theatre for All programme has removed financial barriers, giving disadvantaged people access to the theatre free of charge.
So we were told that we'd come here and have a Christmas meal and then go and watch A Christmas Carol.
Our aim is to make live professional theatre available to everyone and use that experience for positive change. Theatre can be transformational in young lives. Our academy is now in its 4th year, and we continue to build on our vision of bringing the best performing arts tuition to the heart of the Cotswolds. We work hard to make our academy as inclusive and as accessible as possible. Discounts apply for parents with more than one child. Our bursaries help support talented children from less affluent backgrounds. The Academy creates a fun and challenging environment where children can build friendships and develop key skills not just for theatre, but for life. We are also able to provide real opportunities for students who wish to pursue careers in the arts.
My name is Harry Apps. I am currently playing Marius in Les Miserables in the West End.
Barn outreach and learning programs engage with thousands of people. Our free workshops support the drama curriculum in local schools. Singing and musical theatre workshops in community groups and care homes have helped address issues of isolation. Our Song for Cirencester project in aid of mental health charities brought our community together in an unprecedented way. We've collaborated with many charities in the region, including the Churn Project, to support individuals dealing with the barriers to finding work.
Since working with UAN, my life's changed. It's given me some purpose, given me an interest, some confidence I was lacking prior to all this.
The Barn Theatre played a pivotal role in the town's 2018 World War I centenary celebrations. Who could forget our record-breaking Human Poppy? Our live streaming work on the annual Advent Festival helped thousands engage and take part in Cirencester's Christmas festivities. In these times of uncertainty, we strive to keep the community together. The theatre may be temporarily closed, but our commitment to you goes on. Even now, our amazing costume department are helping the NHS by making scrubs for frontline workers. We've used our technology to build a free live streaming service that provides much needed community news and entertainment for all the family, broadcasting every day to keep us all connected. We are not just a theatre. We are the Barn.